All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're having a good day so far. I'm here to tell you what you're going to be doing today. So you're primarily going to be doing two things. The first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to take a reading quiz on chapters 1 and 2. And then the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to continue reading chapters 3 and 4, because the work that you guys were supposed to do for your homework is going to be collected on Thursday. Okay, let me go over the quiz. I'm going to walk you through the instructions, and then I'm going to show you an example, and then you're going to have time to get to work. The quiz itself contains, I think there's 7 different quotes for you to choose from. You're going to choose 2 for chapter 1 and 2 for chapter 2. With the quotes, you're going to do something very similar to what you do when you write an essay. You're first going to contextualize the quote. So talk about what was happening when the quote was stated. What is Saeed doing? What's he preparing to do? Where is he going? Where is he? Who's he talking to? Who's he thinking about? And then you're going to explain the language and what is addressed by either the stream of consciousness or the narrator. And in most cases, it's both. After that, you're going to deepen your analysis further, and you're going to explain how it establishes how it starts to establish how we're supposed to feel about Saeed. Excuse me. How does it demonstrate the difference between outward expression and inward thinking? Because remember, the stream of consciousness, when it's written in italics, excuse me, those are his most inner thoughts, and they often are contradictory to how he is navigating or presenting himself in the present moment. And then how could it be Mahfouz suggesting how not to act as someone dissatisfied with society? So we know that Saeed is experiencing a lot of dissatisfaction with the conditions of his life after he's released from jail. We also talked last week about how easy it is, or how good it might feel temporarily to be able to express your rage or maybe even hate, but that in the end, it doesn't end up beneficial for the receiver or the deliverer of that anger. So how is Mahfouz suggesting that? Also, Mahfouz was living at a time in Egypt where lots of people were very dissatisfied with their government. And one way that they would want to rebel is to kind of pull away or reject all of society. And so Mahfouz is trying to show how that can be a really negative or detrimental decision that someone could make, not only for themselves, but also for other people within society. Okay, how does Mahfouz also maybe suggest that Saeed is someone who does not know how to live his life independently? And this is going to be something that shows up primarily in chapter 2. Saeed is in the need of a lot of guidance, and he doesn't know how to choose what's best for him, or how to figure out how to decide or even get to what is best for him. So you're going to break down the quote. You're going to explain it really thoroughly. You're going to write in complete sentences, and you're not going to talk to anyone else. And then when you're done, you're going to staple the quote paper to your writing, turn it into the tray, and you're going to get started reading chapters 3 and 4 when you're done, and you're going to complete the notes. Okay, so if I'm you, I might say to myself, okay, self, what does this actually look like when I'm supposed to be writing today? So there's an example response that's on here on the slide. I took a quote from page 15. This is after Saeed is released. He's back in Cairo and he's walking through the city. And in the first part, it says, the bars have shut down and only the side streets are open, where plots are hatched. Okay, so that's the stream of consciousness. Again, he's thinking about that as he's looking around the city that he's been re-released into. From time to time, he has to cross over a hole in the pavement, set there like a snare, and the wheels of streetcars groan and shriek like abuse. Okay, and then that's the narrator. He's narrating what Saeed is doing. All right, so I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to read aloud what this response should sound like and what your writing should sound like too. Or like how much process and detail you should put into this. So every little bit of the quote is going to get broken down in the response. And you guys need to really slow down and dive in deep when you're explaining the quote in order to do a really good job explaining the language. Otherwise, you guys, you write too broadly or too vaguely about the language. So this is practice for you really getting specific, really getting detail oriented about what is actually stated in the text. Okay, So I started off with Mahfouz's purpose. I say Mahfouz shows that modern city life is disturbing for Saeed as he tries to readjust to life outside of jail. And we also talked about this last week in class, how city life can be really fast, very stressful. People feel very distant. There's a lot of things that you have to navigate. People are always on the go. The sheer amount of numbers of like people who live in a city versus a non-city also increases the amount of stress that we feel because there's so much more unknown. All right, so Mahfouz emphasizes that in the city. And then I'm going to dive into what's happening in the quote. So first I contextualize it. Saeed observes the area around him and thinks to himself, the bars have shut down and only the side streets are open. This use of stream of consciousness shows the reader that Saeed used to go to this part of town regularly before he was in jail. Okay, so you might be like, Ms. Swan, how do you know that? Well, it's looking really closely at the language that I break down in the next sentence. He recognizes that bars that were open are now closed and that the people are congregating on the streets where plots are hatched. Okay, so I'm breaking down literally every single part of the quote. These plots or plans hint that Saeed used to plan his robberies in this area before he was caught. The word hatched, like an egg being hatched, also implies infancy or that the plans were just beginning. Perhaps Mahfouz wants to show that Saeed's plans he created here were never fully developed, and maybe that's why he got caught. Okay, so I'm diving deeper into the authorial purpose of like how Mahfouz is trying to guide us to be like, you don't want to be like Saeed. And I start to get into it here. Continuing, the reader has witnessed Saeed blame others for his incarceration, but maybe this is the first hint that Saeed was to blame. It then shifts to the narrator's point of view, continuing the description of the city. All right, so I'm going to give a little bit more context, feeding into the rest of the quote. The city is shown as damaged, and Saeed has to avoid these damaged parts. Quote, he has to cross over a hole in the pavement set there like a snare. And a snare, just FYI, is a trap. Mahfouz uses the holes as something that are a challenge to Saeed as he tries to navigate his life outside of jail. Mahfouz also comments on the industrialization of the city by describing, quote, the wheels of the streetcars that growl and shriek like abuse. To describe the noise as abuse implies an uneven power balance and implies that Saeed feels like his odds are stacked against him in this new industrialized version of the city that changed during the 1952 revolution while he was in jail. All right, so you got to break down every single part of the quote. You decide how small the little chunks are that you want to write about, and you're going to guide me through your understanding of how Mahfouz is guiding you through the understanding that you should be having about Saeed. All right, 4 quotes in total. When you're done, staple the prompt to your paper with your writing on it. Get started reading chapters 3 and 4, and that whole packet of chapters 1 through 4 questions is going to be due on Thursday. See you then.